Good evening. Brother James, Mr. O'Toole, Mr. Moran, and your fellow trustees, esteemed members of our faculty, parents, relatives, friends, and most importantly, my 130 brothers from the class of 2020. Welcome to our day, a day that no one and no thing could take from us. Unlike countless commencement addresses around the world that use the coronavirus as a topic of discussion, I refuse to do so because I will not allow the pandemic of the last few months to be what defines our class. It may be what has brought us to this day, but by no means is it what brought us to this time and place. Instead, I chose to focus on a message that can be found throughout our campus and community. 3 simple but powerful words that summarize our collective journey. Choose your path. Each of us chose the path leading to 8605 Cheltenham Avenue. We came from 63 zip codes, including 2 states and 3 countries. We attended 91 different elementary schools, and many were the only ones from their school to attend LaSalle. Despite our different backgrounds, our paths converged for the first time on August 30th, 2016, a sunny Tuesday morning that for many of us would be the turning point in our lives. The first few days found us planting a tree, building a bridge with old newspapers, signing a banner, and for some, learning to tie a tie. The weeks that followed were equally as awkward, as we were hesitant, almost resistant to branch out. But a little more than a month into school, we did that for the first time as we participated in Freshman Branch Out Day with our fathers and teachers. We were divided randomly and performed service at different sites in the Philadelphia area. We began to discover the meaning of leave to serve, and perhaps more importantly, each other. The various offerings afforded to us by LaSalle began to emerge, and eventually, we each chose our respective paths. Some pursued athletics, while others began to participate in service opportunities. Some of us chose to spend time in the basement, either supporting our network, building and programming robots, or making music. While on these paths, we encountered much success. We've been part of 68 championships, including 36 PCL hubcaps and 5 state championships. The competition bands and robotics team have earned their share of trophies and accolades, and the accomplishments of our theater, technology, and service programs is widely known in the community. Some of us chose LaSalle so they could pursue a specific path, while others discovered paths once they arrived. Many of us walked more than one path, and others found themselves in uncharted territory. Regardless of the path we chose, we were committed to LaSalle and always walked with pride. My journey to LaSalle was very different. I have been told that I was born to be LaSallian and destined to be an explorer. Needless to say, my path lacked directional signs or forks in the road. I arrived thinking that I knew everything about LaSalle, but it is what I didn't know that would have the most profound effect. Growing up, I never knew what it was like to have a brother. However, that changed. I was fortunate to meet friends, but the brotherhood that followed is what I will cherish forever. Some of us initially discovered that bond on the ball field or in the band as we learned to trust in each other. Others experienced it while on urban immersion and later on service trips to Appalachia, California, Chicago, Puerto Rico, or the Navajo Nation. Individual journeys leading to a common path. All along, we learned to appreciate our collective talents. We were seemingly different people who eventually discovered that we were not all that different. Through Kairos, we followed a new path, the road to Emmaus, and learned to walk as brothers. Our time together may have been cut short, but the spirit from that silver dove never dies. I've watched us support each other in some of the most unique places and ways. That support was glaringly visible in the interaction we had with each other in the hallways and the classroom. But I've also seen it at sporting events, like the Butternut Cup, when dozens of us came out to cheer on the squash team against the prep. It was visible at the CYO championship basketball game, when almost 100 seniors came out to support our classmates on St. A's and St. Joe Robb. How can anyone forget the 28,000 non-perishable food items that we collected this past November? I know that I can't. Even as recently as last week, when many of us created a music video to cheer up one of our brothers who had just lost his father. Success and sorrow are true realities in life, but amongst the class of 2020, they are a shared experience. During the last few months of quarantine, we have learned a great deal. Mr. Doncheski taught us about ocean currents and their effect on fishing in Peru. Mr. Hardy helped us to realize that there is much more to Prince Hamlet than meets the eye. Mr. Zanio taught us applications for integrals and derivatives. From Ches, we learned a lot. I just can't repeat any of it. Personally, I used this time to develop some practical life skills, such as why you separate darks from whites. I also learned the concept of spring cleaning as it swept through my room. I had a large shelf filled with books, which is odd because I don't consider myself an avid reader. I did finish The Water Will Come, an accomplishment not shared by everyone on the altar. Many of my books were remnants from the summer when my parents promised that if I read all 43 books on the Reading Olympics book list, they would buy me a puppy. Swing by our house at 6 o'clock any morning and see who came out ahead in that deal. As we went through the books, my father was quick to point out the number of ones in pristine condition and implied that I may not have read them all. One in particular, The Boys in the Boat, I readily admitted that I never finished. A few days later, it appeared on the countertop with the weekly activity report from Microsoft summarizing my screen time on Xbox. Needless to say, I decided to finish the best-selling novel by Daniel James Brown, which recounts the story of the University of Washington 8-oared crew that narrowly won the gold medal at the 1936 Olympics in Berlin. I highly recommend the book, the gist of which is teamwork and trust. Our presence here today is much like The Boys in the Boat. We are a talented group of students who, along the way, developed what is known as swing, a mutual trust and respect for each other. We learned to work together, and in spite of apparent differences, focused on our strengths and similarities. We turned out to be better versions of ourselves. We became brothers, and despite an awkward start and obstacles along the way, we have triumphed. The goal, not being a medal or even a piece of paper, rather the satisfaction that we did it together. The late novelist John Gardner once observed that there are only two plots in all of literature. A stranger comes to town, or a person goes on a journey. Our story has both. A stranger came to town in March, but that stranger couldn't stop our journey. Tonight, we walked one final time on a path that was new, yet very fitting. In the presence of our parents, each other, and most importantly, God, we come together to celebrate an extraordinary journey. Our paths will divide from here, but our journey doesn't end. Sadly, some of us will never see each other again, while others will be able to talk in the quad outside Old Main. In recent months, we have all experienced isolation. The one thing that we learned during our time away from LaSalle is how much we miss it. In the coming months, I am certain that each of us will feel that void again. When you do, remember two things. We never walk alone because we have each other. And as Dorothy says, there's no place like home. We are always welcome back to 8605 Cheltenham Avenue, following that path to our second home. Thank you for being my brothers. Thank you for an amazing journey. God bless you all.